we've got an agenda. Please stand, remove cover, and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That aired the door. Item 4 is consideration to approve First Interstate Bank settlement agreement and mutual release. Included in the packet was some pretty good information and about as transparent as someone could possibly be. Staff report is put together by Daniel and Mr. Marshall, so I'll turn it over to you guys to give a brief update.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The item before you is an agreement for a complete settlement with First Interstate Bank. There might be some questions about why is it necessarily with First Interstate Bank. That's because First Interstate Bank has acquired the marks and other property from SMRI as SMRI is folding, and First Interstate Bank is proceeding with essentially the liquidation of the assets so that it can recoup as much as possible as what banks do in these sorts of situations. So the first option that is before you today is to settle with First Interstate Bank. There has been a negotiated settlement that reached substantial completion of the negotiations on Monday. That is for a $75,000 payment along with a $15,000 fee that would be paid for the auction expenses, $500 for limited value marks. There's actually a purchase that would end up being made for that, so the total is $90,500. In regards to that, one second. Sorry about that. Now it's working a little better. As part of this settlement, the Monahan mark and others that are collectively referred to as the heritage marks would be transferred to the city. In addition, the city has offered to Good Sports, which is Hot Leathers, Sturgis Motorcycles, Inc., which is essentially Black Hills Harley-Davidson, Sturgis Area Chamber of Commerce, which are all recognized creditors in a letter of First Interstate Bank from 2010. That letter was included in the packet for the council. That letter essentially was sent to all of those creditors in 2010, stating that they would be able to receive all of that collateral from First Interstate Bank if they assumed all the debt of SMRI. Of course, no one wants to do that. So the city, in a good faith effort, has reached out to all those creditors and have offered this deal to them, which would be that they would be able to license the Monahan mark and the other heritage marks at 11% of the wholesale pricing for whatever goods they would produce. It would be for a 3-year term, and 100% of the proceeds would be divided equally between Sturgis Rally Charities and the Sturgis Rally Endowment. So any of the royalty income that would come in, none of it would stay into the city's general fund or anything else. It would be deposited and then immediately half of it given to Sturgis Rally Charities and half to the endowment. That is an offer that we have made to all of those bodies. We have not yet had concurrence from all three of those entities, although we have had discussions with all three. And hopefully in a couple of days we'll be able to tell you how that works. In addition, we are proposing that the same licensing proposal would be extended to Tom's Tees and Black Hills Rally and Gold. as they have been longtime supporters of the rally and have used the marks for quite some time. And so this would allow us to hopefully allow them to continue to proceed with their business models as they've been doing. And again, to allow a portion of the goods that they sell to be able to be dispersed for the greater good of the community. That is option one. The second option is that we could bid at an auction for the marks. When that happens, if it's not successful, we can challenge the validity of the marks at the USPTO. There's a long explanation as to why we do not believe that it would be lawful for First Interstate Bank to transfer those marks to any other entity. If you have questions on that, our attorney here is more than happy to explain that. But we would have the ability, if they are transferred to someone else, to challenge at the PTO. However, I think it's important to note that there are true costs with that. Our current specialized legal counsel rate is $300 an hour. It's important to note that it's an unknown time frame for the challenge, so it will likely take years. And with that, as with any legal challenges, we cannot guarantee a success, even though it's a very strong argument. Anytime you go before any of these sorts of hearings, you don't ultimately know which way it's going to be determined. In addition, the course of action, if this is how we proceeded, it would delay the PTO's approval of the city's marks. And so I'm talking about the winged S marks that have been developed. So not necessarily the actual winged S, but when that's used in conjunction with Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, different things like that, that will end up having a delay. In addition, it's important to note that it has a potential to reduce the effectiveness of the city's brand campaign and also what we've returned back to the Sturgis taxpayers. I think that really is important, that if there's a transfer of these marks to another entity and we go through a challenge, that will end up muddying the waters. That can affect our sponsors. That also can affect the total amount of merchandise that's sold, everything else that will end up for several years continuing the ongoing kind of consternation that has been happening with these marks for quite some time, instead of just having a clear path. The third option is to simply do nothing. What obviously this will end up doing is increasing the competition and create confusion in the marketplace. If we do nothing, the marks would be transferred to another entity. We don't know who that would be. We would not have the expense or the uncertainty of going to the PTO to challenge it. However, we know that there would be another entity that would have the marks, that would be marketing the marks. And that obviously would create confusion as we go to our sponsors, trying to get them to be a sponsor of the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, especially with marks that have been recognized as the official marks of the rally for decades. That has a significant risk to erode the value of our existing rally marketing. To put it into perspectives, the city has received more than $1.8 million in sponsorship income over the past 5 years. And of course, of the past 5 years, the last 2 years, the sponsorship program has been heavily blunted because of the pandemic. And so if you look in a normal 5-year period, that income would be quite a bit higher. And so this course of action would obviously have a significant effect on the city's ability to make investments in infrastructure and maintain our lower tax rates that we've been able to achieve over the past 10 years. In addition, it would increase the likelihood that the city would forfeit the benefit of the rally marketing campaign. So we have been able to establish a very significant rally marketing campaign that is leading to newer individuals coming to the rally, attending the rally. Also, different individuals from different areas that are coming here, spending money within the state, within the region, and within the city. If we are not able to fully present the city as the host of the rally, that's going to have an effect on our ability to continue to successfully market the event. The staff's recommendation is to approve option 1. It captures all of the rally-related marks in one house that would be controlled, of course, by the elected representatives of the city. It would settle all existing claims with First Interstate Bank and SMRI. It would bring closure to the community. This has been an incredibly long, drawn-out process that has been very contentious. With this action, we would be able to end the long history of this and, again, have it all centered with the community's elected body to make decisions for the community as a whole. In addition, it would establish a heritage collection that would provide 100% of all proceeds each year back to the community, which was the original vision to begin with. Are there any questions?
Questions for Daniel from council at this point? Well presented, shows our options, shows what's on the table that we're facing. So how about public input on said consideration?
Deb Holland with the Black Hills Pioneer. Can you tell me what happened with the McPherson auction? How did that end up, or what? How does that play into this? Did someone buy those marks, or did you buy them, or what?
The McPherson auction was canceled when we entered into negotiations directly with First Interstate Bank. Rather than canceled, I should say was paused. If the negotiations fail, if the council doesn't approve this, if we don't secure the consent of the other creditors, the auction may continue.
Come on up, Sam.
Sam Monahan with Tom's Teas. I guess I'm curious to know with the city's the purchase of the mark $75,000 with option 1 and $15,000 paid to the auctioneer. It wasn't in the auction, so why pay $15,000 to the auctioneer?
That is a cancellation fee.
Sounds about right.
Right? Wrong business, right, Sam?
The other question is, what are the intentions with the logo, with the marks? If you tried to build your own brand with new logos, are you planning to continue with these logos and use them as sponsorship, or all the marks, just some of the marks?
I think it's a moving target, Sam. I think it's my belief, and the way I see it is, as we move forward with sponsorships, it'll be the winged S and the annual marks that the city has established. The heritage marks are certainly part of the rally, part of T-shirts, part of shot glasses, part of people recognizing as a Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So as we refer to those as the heritage marks, we want people who want to use them as marketing and as merchandising to use them and truly return 100% of that money back to the community through the endowment and rally charities as intended originally.
And could you shed a little bit more light on the 3 organizations that you had mentioned earlier in option 1 there that are involved now?
Sure. So there was a letter that was drafted by First Interstate Bank.
2010.
Yeah, in 2010. Actually, Sam, if you can hold on 1 second, I'll pull up the letter. Do you remember what attachment number that was?
That would be attachment A, the first one.
There we go. It was a letter that was drafted by First Interstate Bank in 2010. The letter stated that there were several different entities that would be able to essentially kind of have a first right of refusal to end up purchasing the marks. But in doing so, they would have to take on the debt of SMRI. And so that is quite substantial. Those entities were the Sturgis Area Chamber of Commerce, the City of Sturgis, Good Sports, and Black Hills Sturgis Motorcycle, which in essence is Black Hills Harley Davidson. And as far as why the letter is issued, I don't think anyone in the room can tell you. No one here was part of any of the negotiations or anything else, so
Sure.
I'm not sure.
And had any of these entities reached out to the city by auction time, or since then you've reached out to them?
During our negotiations with First Interstate Bank, they requested that we reach out to them, so we have been.
Okay.
As part of our attempt to settle with First Interstate Bank.
Okay. That's it.
Thanks, Ann. Any other questions, Robin?
I am just curious as to where the 11% was arrived, and if that is something that would be part of option one, if for us, for SAN and for Black Hills Rallying Gold.
Sure. The 11% was what the city had this year for a couple of our licensees that did it. They believed that that was a fair percentage, and so we wanted to proceed with that. And so that's where we came up with the 11% of the wholesale pricing. Part of our agreement with First Interstate Bank does not include that 11% for 3 years for Black Hills Rallying Gold and for Tom's Teas. However, that's the intention of the council, that we would be offering that to you if you choose to. Not that you're required to, of course, but if you would like to, that would definitely be offered.
Okay. There are other things involving that logo that have been done by Tom before SAN and previous owner, Black Hills Rallying Gold, Dean McNinney. The two of them are the ones that kind of, Tom came up with it. He worked with Dean. Every year picked a different color. Mm-hmm. And then as I came on board and as SAN came on board, we were involved in that as well. And now we are the ones that do that. And that's an important part of this going forward for us. You know, I have things going back to 86 that the color has changed every year. Those are very collectible. I still have people, you know, coming to get old year things that have missed those things. So I'm wondering if we go into a contract with the city on those marks, if those are some things that can be addressed.
Absolutely. I think we'd be very open to that, to the same process going forward.
Okay.
That,
and as well as, you know, how it moves forward as far as the amount, the royalty. That is higher than I've ever paid. Prior to SMRI, I was at a lower percentage than what I was with SMRI, which I'm not opposed to. I mean, the whole purpose is to give back, you know, and but I was just curious as to where that came from. I don't know that anybody paid that amount with SMRI. I don't know what anybody else's contracts were, and that being said, nobody's had control of this now for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I have paid royalties on those marks, even though it was kind of up in the air. Would the city have the right to go back?
No.
And enforce, or is that this would be something new that starts when
correct.
This happens?
And so what happened over the last several years, that's out of our hands, whether or not First Interstate Bank or SMRI or whomever would have claims. We don't know. That's not our intention. It would be from, and not our ability, it would be from the point of this being approved by First Interstate Bank as well as the city. From that point forward, there would be, you know, the ability for us to license these heritage marks as well as the new city marks, and then we would collect royalties from those and work with whoever our licenses or licensees are to create their products and colorations and everything else.
And the city's intention, Robin, is to, one, make sure there's clarity in the marketplace going forward, because that's something we battled for a decade plus, as you've been a part of. And two, is to truly return to the community through the endowment and Black Hills Charities with these heritage marks, which were intended. If this proposal is accepted, we get this thing done. I believe finally those things will be achieved as we move forward with the ability of local businesses to continue to market and do what you guys do.
And do you have any idea when this might all?
By December 5th.
We already have product being made. You have to start in the fall to get things on time, and especially right now, we still don't know what we're going to get. You know, and so we've got companies waiting that have developed things for us to order because we don't know if we have.
The timeline laid out to complete this and hopefully can be achieved is by December 5th. So relatively fast considering all the things that are moving.
Okay.
And as a point of further clarification, that December 5th is an end date. If we're able to secure consent from the other creditors, it will move that much more quickly. But of course, we have no control over the other creditors.
And can you explain to me a little bit about the endowment fund and how that works and how it's used? And
Sure. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I thought I heard something. The endowment fund was set up, I think, 2-3 months ago with the Black Hills Area Community Foundation. The Black Hills Area Community Foundation holds numerous endowments for different organizations throughout the Black Hills. They had a challenge that for every $4 that would be invested with them, they would match it with $1. So it was a 25% match, and that was funded through another philanthropist in the Black Hills. And so, what the intention of that would be is that over the next several years, we don't know how long, but 5 years, 10 years, 15, as there's revenue that some would be deposited with the Black Hills Community Area Foundation. In this Sturgis Rally endowment is what the title of that is. And then at some point, whether it's $1 million or $1.5 million or whatever, when it gets to a certain point, then the interest off of that can start being expensed and used by Sturgis Rally Charities and other entities to continue kind of the mission. What, of course, the goal is that if by the 117th rally, if there's not a large crowd, there would be still a lasting legacy to be able to give back to the Sturgis community. Not to say that the 117th wouldn't be huge, but if it's not, at least there would be a lasting impact for the residents of Sturgis.
okay. And at this point, do you know what the city this year will be giving to Rally? Because you give directly to Rally Charities, right? Has that amount been determined already?
Yes, and all those checks were
Two
signed,
meetings ago.
yeah, yesterday.
But 62,000 and some change, I believe, was what went to the endowment from this year's proceeds.
But what
So
about
80,000 went to the endowment. So a portion of that was the Rally Cup proceeds, and then also some from sponsorship.
Right.
And so it was 80,000, so that we can get the $20,000 match. So it's 100,000 that's in that endowment now. Rally Charities.
The first check was like
It-
36.
We'll get you that
Yeah,
number
we'll
after
get
this.
that.
There were
Yeah,
like
there's
5
checks,
different
There's multiple
funding
checks
streams.
given.
So
but it was, yeah.
because it would be nice to see what's given to them increase to where it used to be before all the legal stuff happened and, you know, all the
that's the
cost.
intention.
Well, this
And
year, between the endowment and Rally Charities themselves,
exceeds.
it exceeded years past for sure, Robin. I mean, we're
Yeah.
pushing
it was 170,000.
something like that. It was a lot, which is great. That's the intention.
And so for this year, because I have also been donating to Rally Charities, so for this year, would that be the appropriate thing to do? As there wasn't royalties paid this year.
I don't know what your agreement was for royalties, so I don't want to tell you what, who should receive your royalties check. I don't know.
If I may, Robin, I think that decision is entirely up to you.
Okay. Okay. Sam?
I think that answered most of it. The only question goes back to the hot leather or good sports and Harley Davidson, and that was a 3-year term that you were looking at. Is that for the rest of time, or is that a negotiable time frame?
That
Revisited as if there's a deal done when that time frame arises again. It's not for perpetuity, to answer your question.
Okay,
It's renegotiated as things move forward and things change
right.
with set limits within current agreements.
As a matter of clarity, that 3-year term right now has not been agreed upon.
It's a
It is
proposal.
merely a proposal.
Sure. Well, and you have to understand our skepticism here with it. This logo's changed hands many times since 1986 when my father created this. It was with the Jack Pine Gypsies, the Chamber of Commerce, Committee of the Chamber, Sturgis Rally and Races, employees of the Chamber, and it all starts out in good faith, and here we are today. And, and for Robin and I, we just found out about this auction haphazardly. We didn't even, SMRI did not notify us, First Interstate Bank did not notify us. I stumbled across the auction. I was in another auction and saw that it was advertised. We've still, to this day, have not been notified by any party of any of the dealings with any of this. So it just got dropped in our lap. And like Robin said, we have product made already. And they had no decency to reach out and say anything far as there was financial issues or that it would be changing hands again. So,
Well, the intent of the city, if this does get achieved, is truly to take those heritage marks and return to the community as we've laid out. And that's what it's always been intended to, and seem to steer different directions as legal challenges and things go forward. But we want you guys to be able to use them if you want to use them. We want to negotiate a deal that is fair to everybody, and we want all proceeds from the heritage marks to go directly to Rally Charities and Rally Charities Endowment. No questions asked, no portions saved to the side for whatever comes up. Truly returning to the community of Sturgis as the intent was of your father.
And I think one thing also that is a little different with this, all the documents in relation to this are posted on our website. They were part of the packet. I know that has been an area of concern over the past several iterations of this process. Everything is upfront, so we can show everyone this is the deals that are being proposed, and this is what the city is paying to First Interstate Bank to settle it. This is what we have offered to different entities so that people can see that this is a process going forward. I know that for various reasons that wasn't able to be done, or it wasn't done in the past, but I think this time we're trying to be as transparent as possible with all of that. And we actually found out about the auction, I think, the same day you guys did as well, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Last
2 Fridays ago,
Monday?
right before
Friday.
Yeah.
It was about 2 weeks ago.
If I can speak to that, Daniel.
Absolutely.
This is also a part of the packet. On October 14th, we received the first notification of the auction. Then on October 18th, we received a second notification of the auction, at which time the date was changed. And the date of the auction was October 20. So that's the timeline.
That being said, one other question on that. So you're prepared to do the enforcement, which,
Yes.
as we have learned, a trademark isn't worth anything if you don't defend it. And, that was a concern for me if we had that trademark. enforcing it, which is a whole lot of work and legal. So,
And this year we did enforcement action. Actually, last year we did as well. So we have been
okay.
doing enforcement action, not on these marks because we did not own these marks, but on the city's marks. We have been.
Okay.
And one of the principal purposes of entering into this agreement with First Interstate Bank is to police and protect the marks that the city is developing. So this is different from what I understand has gone on in the past when there has been strong arm tactics to enforce the mark. We're trying to be proactive to get the marks in the hands of the people who have traditionally used them, and again, not strong arm them, but allow them to work in partnership with the city for the benefit of the rally and the benefit of the community.
And if this thing was to happen with option one, would we then meet with you and negotiate a contract? I mean, it's not something that's already set up and set a certain way where
Yes, you would meet with Lance, who is our brand manager, to negotiate the contract for it. The terms of the contract, we kind of went over. We'd probably be open for a little negotiation, and I don't know about a lot because we want to try to keep people on the same,
right.
playing
Well, and
field.
it's mostly how it works for reporting,
Sure.
And so I do it differently than some other places did.
Absolutely. And we did that this year as well as last year. Some entities, there was
It'll be
different
worked out.
timelines and everything else, and we understand that.
Well, we want you to operate and to be able to succeed in what you're doing.
Well, and I have been involved with this since '89 when I started working for Black Hills Rally and Gold. And so I've been in on the accounting and the paying of royalties for a long, long time now. And so I know how it works best for both parties, and I'm hoping that that's something that the city will be willing to
Absolutely.
consider.
Any other discussion on said consideration? What do you have, Bonnie? Come on up to the microphone, please.
It may be in the paperwork, which I pulled and sort of fleetingly read, so I may be asking a question that's answered, and I apologize for that. I'm just really underarmed for this, but who are the other creditors involved here that have to agree to this?
Sturgis Motorcycle Inc., which is Black Hills Harley Davidson and their group of owners. Good Sports, which is DBA Hot Leathers. And that's it. Chamber, yep. And us. As per the original letter when this was put together in 2009, 2010, through that process that occurred to create SMRI and to secure these marks under their ownership.
And so these folks would have to throw in money, or they would just have to
They would have to
agree
take
the
over
change?
existing debt that has occurred of over 7 digits of SMRI to take over the marks themselves.
Is what the letter stated. And so what is being offered instead is a negotiated settlement with First Interstate Bank where the city would pay far less than what the debt is of SMRI. But in exchange, the city is offering to these three entities the deal that we've gone over. Now, whether or not they accept it, we'll see. And whether or not they do, we're not necessarily saying that they'll each do it. I mean, they may very well decide it's not in their business interest. They don't want to, which is fine.
Which is also an acceptable answer, but the process has to occur per the plan laid out.
So how did this debt get this big?
Well, Bonnie, that's a question for SMRI. It includes legal battles. It includes original debt that was a note written by First Interstate Bank, which is why we're here. But yeah, it's the operations and of the last 11 years of SMRI.
And who constitutes SMRI?
Nobody anymore. It's dissolving.
What
It was a board of directors that you can historically see that it's members of the community, business members, outside interest, city of Sturgis interests. I mean, a board put together that revolved over the years,
And when did it start?
2010. But let's keep track on what we got going forward here with this actual
I'm
proposed
just trying
agreement.
to get the perspective on how this went down.
My question is, have they filed for bankruptcy?
We have not been notified.
So SMRI is an invisible target. I mean, what is their organizational structure? What are they if they're
It's a board of
dissolving?
directors, a nonprofit organization.
They're a 501c6, or they were registered as a 501c6.
Okay, thank you.
Any other considerations, council?
I just have a couple comments. Is that okay? Yep. All right, thank you. Mostly I am speaking just to concur with the mayor. I am speaking in support of option 1. My first point is that PTO requires continued use of the heritage marks, and I foresee the city using them by licensing them out, and I support the city's continued licensing and use. I personally do not want to see an entity outside of the city of Sturgis grab ownership of these heritage marks, an entity that does not understand nor care or know the historical and sentimental value of the heritage marks. And I thirdly believe that the giving back of the total licensing profits fits in with not only the original intent of the creator, Tom Monahan. I believe that it was also SMRI's intent eventually to get back to giving to the community. And it also aligns with our purpose as the council and the city of Sturgis in creating the endowment and ensuring that 100% of the licensing fees goes to the endowment. So I will be supporting option 1.
Why would this, with option 1, is the bank still going to come out with the same, holding the same debt total?
They would write it off if
Minus
they.
the 75,000.
Yeah.
Allow me to clarify that. We don't know what the bank will do.
Right.
They will apply the proceeds of this sale to their costs of sale, their attorney's fees. We do not know if the bank holds a personal guarantee from anyone for the other part of the debt. And from a legal standpoint, it's none of our concern. Our concern by proposing this agreement is to capture control of all of the marks for the benefit of the citizens of Sturgis.
So with the auction that went down, did it go down to completion?
It was paused and never occurred as we negotiated. And we're currently still in that
Or you say
negotiation.
it didn't take off, there are no bids in?
No bids in. It was paused.
Well, that's one good news.
I mean,
How likely is the bank to accept option 1? And what happens if they don't? And what time frames do you have to,
the current proposal set forward by the bank is to get done by December 5th. We are working with the bank, so there's a very high likelihood of them that this is what they accept. The questions are these other entities that have creditor status on this written letter in 2010 from First Interstate Bank. Those are the ones we're unsure of.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the bank has accepted this, contingent upon the approval of the other creditors.
Other discussion from council? Questions for staff?
Just one, Mr. Marshall. With that statement, do you see a probability, either low or high, but is there a possibility that the other creditors will try to attach to this deal?
May I ask a question, Councilor Bashand?
I'll try.
Okay. When you use the term attach, what are you trying to learn?
I'm trying to figure out if they have an option to try and recover some of their lost expense through other means, since they are direct holders, or do they have a better path at First Interstate Bank?
They are creditors if they accept this proposal, consent to this proposal. Their creditor's interest is cut out. If they do not accept this proposal and it goes to an auction, they would have to bid an amount in excess of the $75,000 plus the auction fee, which attaches whether the auction is canceled or if the auction takes place.
And they have an ability do they have an ability to combine as separate entities into one for that purchase power?
As a matter of fact, I don't know. I don't know what Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Burgess and Mr. Ryman have in mind. But as a matter of practicality, I think it's a possibility that they could go together to submit a bid. Currently, they have expressed no interest in doing that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
They've said they had no interest in doing that, or we've just not seen any activity in that direction?
They have said that they currently have no interest. They have not accepted or consented formally to the proposal.
Basically, they're tired of bleeding.
December 5.
Is that, I mean, when we say December 5, isn't that the bank's deadline when they want to be done? Or are we saying December 5 and then, oh, they're not going to, so now we go back to the thinking box?
Well, this deal must be concluded by December 5. If the creditors don't consent, it's out of the control of the city as to the deadline and what goes forward.
Meaty stuff, big stuff that comes down to. I mean, the clarity in the marketplace and what we've dealt with since 1986 for this ride that you folks have gone through. I think this is clarity at the end. Possibilities.
And speaking as a lawyer, and I'm going to draw on my 40 years of practice experience and my experience as a mediator and arbitrator and negotiator, what people tend to diminish or not consider fully is the value of closure. Closure is that sense of ease and comfort that one gets when a matter is resolved with finality. It's the sense that, oh, I don't have to put up with this anymore. I can move on. And that becomes real once the agreement is signed and in place. Until then, all you have is a sense of uncertainty, that creates anxiety and worry. And I think one of the chief benefits of this proposal is it brings closure to the council, to the community, to the bank, and quite frankly, to everyone who attends the rally. They don't have to worry that they're getting ripped off by somebody who's marketing products that aren't what the products purport to be. And this year was my first year, and I walked up and down the streets of the rally, and I visited with vendors who were displaying T-shirts, and I asked them about their marks. And there were a number of vendors who were using what I'll call the traditional trademarks. And I said, well, how did this come about? What goes on with this mark? And they said, well, this is the officially licensed mark by the city of Sturgis. And we pay the city of Sturgis a royalty to use this mark, which is a complete and utter fabrication. They didn't know me from Adam. They didn't know that I was the city attorney. So I got very candid answers. And I think that kind of attitude by your vendors is not in the best interest of the rally, the community, this council, or anyone but the people who are trying to unfairly profit off the work of Mr. Monahan's father and his true charitable intent when he set this matter up. So sometimes I have to take off my objective hat and speak to the subjective matters. But from my subjective and personal standpoint, I think this agreement is truly in the best interest of the city of Sturgis and all those who attend the rally, no matter where they're from.
Further discussion, or is there a motion?
I would just like to amen that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. I would like to move to approve option 1 of the First Interstate Bank Settlement Agreement and Mutual Release.
Second.
We have a first by Becca and a second by Dean. Any last discussion, public or council? Let's go ahead and roll call this. I'll start with myself. I'm yes. Angela?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Becca?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
And Jason?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Appreciate everybody's efforts on this and ability to move pretty quickly in a situation that was basically thrown in our laps. So, item 5 is setting a public hearing for a special events license for December 2nd.
Actually, November 5th.
So the hearing's on November 15th. For December 2nd. So we're just setting a public hearing here. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Got a first by Jason,
Second.
second by Angelo. All those in favor of setting the public hearing for the next regular city council meeting, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That motion carries unanimously. Item 6 is adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We got a first by Angela, second by Becca. All in favor of adjournment, please indicate by stating yes.
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 Opposed to no. We're adjourned. Thanks, folks. Questions, comments, continue to work with staff and call us, and we'll see what develops as we move forward here.